Right. Well, I'm really excited to upload some backpacking related videos to the channel. But before I did that, I wanted to at least offer to whoever's paying attention just some information about sort of who I am as a backpacker, how I got into it, what are my credentials, let's say, because I think it's sort of a shame that on the internet, very often the audience knows nothing about its author, and its author knows nothing about the audience. And so you have a lot of times what sometimes seems like misinformation, but it's really just the wrong context. And so before you take any of my advice or counsel, I think it's helpful to know a little bit about me as a backpacker. So I just came up with a few pictures to kind of illustrate my backpacking journey. And basically, it started out of necessity because my friends and I liked to ride dirt bikes. And the places we rode dirt bikes were far away from hotels and all of that. And we wouldn't have wanted to pay for that anyway. And so we started camping um, and sleeping outside and making fires and all of that kind of stuff got us more and more interested in the topic as a whole. So the next phase was what I would just call like a sense of adventure and a sense of challenge. So I was born and raised in Michigan, and this is a picture of my brother-in-law in the background, and basically a, a fort or a shelter that we made in the Upper Peninsula in Michigan, where it was negative 12 degrees Fahrenheit. And you may have found, like I did, that being raised in America or another developed country, that we just live these very soft, cushiony, 70-degree Fahrenheit, 50% humidity lives. And yet, all of the tales that you read about as a kid are about valiant, brave heroes. And so I think in many men or young boys, there is this desire for danger and challenge and adventure and uncertainty. And so I think this happens to have been the way that I started to pursue that. And so I went winter backpacking 4 times in Michigan, several single nights and well, 2 single nights and 2 multi nights. And that sense of adventure built up enough competency that I took my dad to Alaska. So this is a picture from Alaska. My dad and I went on a 8-day, 7-night trek through the Toklat River area of Denali National Park around Mount Sheldon, where there are no trails, no signs. We didn't see a single person. It's just land and you and a map and compass. And so I then began to see how this hobby that I was developing and these skills that I was developing could also be used to bless others and give something to people that they may not be able to get themselves. In this case, my dad wasn't a big backpacker and he wouldn't have done something like this on his own. And I think I had maybe just enough skills to keep us alive out there. But yeah, so then this is a picture from Sweden. My wife and I slept in that tent, which I still have. I'm trying to give away on the YouTube channel right now. You can check that out. But it became something of just a resourceful, frugal necessity. So as we traveled throughout Europe while we were living in Germany, we stayed at campsites all the time. Now, this is a national park in Sweden, but nonetheless, we stayed at all kinds of campsites where you could just pitch a tent. They had nice clean showers and bathrooms, and you could stay for like €12 a night. And so it became a really affordable way to travel. And yeah, we have always sort of been frugal, resourceful people. And there's nothing wrong with spending money on a hotel, but at some point you run out of money and it becomes quantity over quality. And so we wanted to spend lots and lots and lots of days traveling, and that meant we had to find less expensive ways to sleep. And I would say the last reason that I have turned to backpacking and kept with it, there's sort of two answers in this picture. The first are the views and the experiences. So this is in Glacier National Park, and this picture really doesn't even scratch the surface to what you can see out there when you go for a hike. And The views and the experiences are just unbelievable. And the irony is that for the vast majority of human existence, things like this have actually been commonplace. Everyone used to walk or ride a donkey or a camel or a horse. Everyone used to be in the back country. It's really only quite recently that going and spending a couple nights in the woods is a hobby and not just part of life. And therein lies a secondary effect and benefit which has become very valuable to me. I often refer to backpacking as a great recalibrator. And what I mean by that is if you consider that electricity and the automobile and the internet have basically all been around for the masses for less than 100 years. That means that okay, so like people estimate that the Earth is anywhere from 6,000 to a couple billion years old. Now, let's just, for sake of conversation, take the smallest number, 6,000. Well, that means that for 99% of human existence, whenever you talked about the light on being in the room, you were talking about a candle. Or whenever you talked about communicating with someone, you were talking about face to face. Or whenever you talked about going somewhere, you were either on foot or on an animal. It's only very, very recently for humans that our transportation, our communication, and our illumination are totally different. And so, in some ways, I think we have lost sight of what it means to live and work hard. And we have become so comfortable in our homes at the temperature that we like that we have forgotten what it really means to challenge yourself and what it really means to be in need and hunger and want and thirst. And so, because the vast majority of the world is not enjoying the things that we enjoy here in the United States, houses, cars, air conditioning, heat, refrigerators, we in some ways are extremely out of touch with reality. The reality for the majority of the people on earth, we are not experiencing that. We're experiencing like the fringe or the exception. And that's okay. I'm not trying to convince anyone that you have to give it up, but I don't want to forget what it's like. I don't want to be unaware. And so when you backpack and it takes you time to get fresh water or boil water or every comfort that you bring for camp you have to carry on your back, which becomes a discomfort. There's just a really great calibration effect from backpacking. And so unlike taking a vacation to Florida where you have a fancy hotel and a fancy shower and fancy food, and then coming back to your house and being very disappointed by your mundane and boring lifestyle, you come back from backpacking and you are so grateful for a shower and so grateful for the refrigerator and for a sink and a garbage disposal. And so I've become convinced that the best way to spend your vacation, which is not the majority of your life, is to do something that makes you very grateful and thankful for your everyday life because that's where you're living every day. Okay, the last reason is because I'm a father. My children are growing up in a very soft, cushy environment where they have all of their needs met and almost all of their wants met. And I want them to have a taste of reality. Now, I could sell everything I have and move into a super poor area and all of that, but we haven't decided to do that yet. But what we do want to do is expose our children to adversity and challenge and be there and enjoy them as they overcome it. The other thing is, as a father, you will find that you are going to endear your children to something. You may be the type of family who goes to Disney World, which means probably your children are going to grow up loving Mickey and Minnie and Donald and Goofy and all of that. Or you may really be into sports, and so you encourage your kids to play baseball or football. And so chances are, as they're older, they're going to look back on Mickey and Minnie or football and baseball or hiking and biking with great fondness. And as a father, you begin to see how you ought to be careful what you endear your children to because you're going to help set them on a trajectory for life. And you may find that things that were safe and special and innocent in your childhood have become not so safe, not so innocent. And so you have to be careful about endearing your children, say, to a brand like Nike, who makes high quality, reliable clothing, because in 30 years, they may not be making that anymore. And so as a father, I began to think about, well, what could I endear my children to that I know won't change and I know is worthwhile even in the ages to come? And nature became one of those things for me. And exposing the children to nature, the mountains, the storms, the animals, that just seemed like a really safe bet. The trees and the mountains have been with us since the beginning. My bet is they'll be with us till the end. Other things like organized sports and Disney World and even computer programming, we don't really know how long those things will be at the center of our civilization. And so, in some ways, it's a very safe bet to endear your children and develop in them the sort of hobbies that will be long lasting. My last comment to that is I think in America we have a relatively unhealthy lifestyle. We spend a lot of time in our cars, we eat a lot of unhealthy foods. And as a father, I wanted to make sure that my children had an active life. And there's a couple ways to accomplish that. I steered away from organized sports like baseball and soccer and football and all of that for several reasons. And I'm not dogmatic on that. So if you have done that or you've done that with your kids, that's fine. I'm not here to criticize it. But one thing that sort of pushed me over the edge on that topic was somebody pointing out to me that less than 1% of people who play sports in high school play those same sports in college, and less than 1% of the people who play them in college play them for the rest of their life. Now, maybe those statistics are a little bit off, but that doesn't matter. The point is, most of the people who play those kinds of sports growing up don't play them into their 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And so you're starting hobbies that you won't be able to maintain throughout life. Whereas paddlers, hikers, bikers, you will see those people on the trails and on the water into their 70s, maybe even later. And so again, it becomes a really safe bet to endear your children to those kinds of things. So that's a little bit about the backpacker that I am. I thought before I started posting videos about it, I would at least share that with you. And if any of that sounds interesting to you, then keep an eye open for the upcoming videos about backpacking. Take care. Thanks.